Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are on the update 1.89 dev server, and before we get started, since this is probably going to be the first video that I show you guys, remember that everything that is shown on the dev server is subject to change. This is just a quick preview of the main things which are coming out in the next updates. The main one updates 1.89, which is mainly focused around the Japanese Navy. Remember also that there are definitely certain things which are missing. One of the main things that I've personally seen is that the Leclerc doesn't seem to have its armor yet. It's only called composite armor, and then when you go to the protection analysis and have a look, it only has, if we put on APFSDS, it doesn't have a ton of armor on it, right? It only has, 90 to 100 on the turret. There is no way that this turret is going to be that weak. So, yeah, just understand that the armor isn't fully there on some of these vehicles, and they're not, fully done. But, as I said, this is a general overview of what we will see in the next updates. In this video, we'll be having a look at ground vehicles. In the next one, we'll have a look at aircraft. And in the next one, then, we'll have a look at naval. So, the first vehicle that is on offer for the Americans is the ADATS, which is, of course, the Bradley chassis, which has on top of it 8 MIM-146s, at least that's what they're called in the top over here, and you can see that these are those ATGMs which are not just good against anti-air, they are also very good against ground as well. These are, I suppose, multi-purpose ATGMs that you would call them. It also has access to the 25mm on top, and you will find it, at least for now, in the AA tree at 10.0. This is pretty much the American equivalent to the Tunguska. I'd say the 25mm isn't as strong, but the ATGMs are just better in general. You have the optics in the center. The crew itself is a 3-man. You've got the loader, the gunner, and then of course the driver in the front. The engine right next to him, and then also next to that is the radiator with some fuel tanks and vertical drives. It has 8 rounds of missiles, so once you're out of them, or once you're out of these here, then you are out of them. So there's no reload mechanic on this machine. It only has access to that. It also has radar guidance on everything, and we'll get into that when I show you the individual vehicle in its entirety. Then modifications-wise, the 25mm does have access to APDS as an upgrade, 110mm, and you don't get an upgraded ATGM, so you have the best ATGM unlocked straight at the start. Moving on, Germany doesn't get any ground vehicles apart from one which I'm going to show you specially. One of the things is that there are a few machines in the files, such as the Type 16 for the Japanese, and also what seems to be an anti-air machine from the Germans. So this should be the anti-air machine from the Germans. I'll show you it in its own specific video, but understand that it uses the Roland missiles. Here we go. This is what it looks like. And the radar isn't working on it right now, but as I said, this isn't in the tech tree, this is just in the files. And you can see it has this really cool reload system where it goes down, hunkers, and you can actually, reload the missiles themselves. So yeah, I thought that was really cool. And of course it has some grenades as well. It has no main gun apart from the missiles, so this is the, basically the Marder chassis with the Roland missiles on top of it. Apart from that, there is nothing else new for Germany in the ground, and of course you can see the 264 set over there. The Soviets get one vehicle, the Sturm S, which is this. We saw this dev blog, and it's going to sit itself at a rank 6 battle rating 9.3. This is an incredibly lightly armored machine. It is quite fast, but not as fast as I personally would have hoped, and there does seem to be an issue with its aiming. I'll show you it here. Oh, it also does get access to 2 different ATGMs. The upgraded ATGM is, of course, the 9M120, and it gets access to the 9M114. The 9M120, the main difference between these is it seems like when we look at them, this has 560mm of pen at 0, and this has 800mm of pen. Everything else is very close on the stat cards. therefore you might as well just take the 120 as the upgrade. No scouting on this machine, which is kind of depressing. I thought we would see some scouting on it, but it does have a really cool reload mechanism. I do want to point out something that seems to be wrong. You can see that I'm aiming at this Leopard A1A1, and unfortunately the reticle isn't on it. Then when I go into this sight, I can't pull down. You know, the machine does not like being pulled down. I'm literally, you know, scrolling as fast as I can with my mouse, and it's going down really, really slowly. So, yeah, it seems to be a little bit bugged with the targeting, and I think it's to do with the reload cycle, because when you fire, the missile chute, or whatever tube falls down, it sits itself in the center, and then of course comes back out again. It's a really nice reload cycle. The only issue is if you switch between ATGMs, you can kind of screw with the reload cycle a little bit. But overall, I think it's a pretty cool vehicle. The only issue I have is the fact that I think it should be a little bit lower BR, and obviously that's all subject to change. This thing can get hull broken, or at least it should be able to, and it can get 50 cal to death. Because, guess what? 14mm worth of armor, especially on an open hatch, which makes literally no sense. This hatch is open. Why is this 14mm? And also 5mm on the front, including 14. So, yeah, you can kill this crew, which is only a 2-man crew with a 50 cal. But you can see the wonderful design that has gone on the X-ray to show how the missiles work, and we'll go more into that as we go on. But the model itself is beautiful. The only issue is I don't think this will be that useful in the game itself. Then for the British, we have of course the Stormer HVM. This is the AA machine for the British top tier. It doesn't have a gun on it. Instead, it just has access to 16 Starstreak HVM AAMs, and along with its optics and also grenade launchers as well. If we have a look at the X-ray, it's a 3-man crew, and it does actually have a reload on it. You can see the missiles sat here below, but I don't think it has a reload animation. And if we have a look at the armor, you're looking at 25-25, so this thing should be able to get hull broken pretty easily. Modifications wise, it's very simple, you know, nothing crazy here, and you start off with the Starstreak and you end with the Starstreak. All of these missiles that I've shown so far can be optically guided, which means you don't have to have something locked on, and they can also be you know, guided with radar. So you can see this machine up here, you know, the plane, and then you have this machine, so we lock on, and then we just you know, fire one, and you can see it just works exactly the same as the Tunguska. The only issue is when you go into X-ray mode, this is the view that you're left with. So if you like, let's say if you target this machine here, you can see how you can't really see the machine because the actual thing is in the way, and obviously you can't zoom out. So yeah, it's a little bit annoying, but it's not the end of the world. The cool thing about the Starstreak is the way that it's modeled in game is, I'll shoot at this machine and you can see. So you fire it, and then it splits into what looks like a spherical thing. Now, I'll fire it in the air to show better. So you can see how it turns anti-clockwise. That's because it splits into 3 different darts, or 3 different missiles, I suppose, and they all guide by themselves. Now, I'm not talking about the historical context of the Starstreak, I'm just talking about how it works in game. And you can see that with this T-64B, it's getting hit by 3 separate missiles, which is really cool. You know, it's one of those new additions to the game that we haven't really seen before. Overall, it's just another addition to the, you know, the anti-CAS meta that we're going to have on top tier. The Japanese do not have anything new for the ground vehicles, apart from an interesting vehicle, which is sat in the files once again. And as I said, this is the Type 16. So if you don't know what the Type 16 is, it's very close to the Centauro. And it seems like it's not fully finished when it comes to the files, and the reason why I say this is because it doesn't have a full-on texture, or at least the texture isn't fully done. It's incredibly green, and that's about it. But if you want a general playstyle on this machine, it's basically going to be like a Centauro. It's also a mid-2000s vehicle, which is kind of crazy that we're having that added to the game, because obviously we have helicopters from them, but machines like this, it's very surprising. So you can see the issue here is that it is all one plane when it comes to its color. And since this isn't in the trees, but it is in the files, my guess is that it will come to the game in this update. But just understand that this is not confirmed, right? This is just kind of there in the dev on the dev server. So yeah, it's a really cool machine. It should have some pretty nice armor on it, and also you can see the insides there. It's a 4-man crew with a 50 cal on top. Hopefully this is a scout for the Japanese at the top, and if it isn't a scout, then it'll probably fill a very similar role to the Centauro, if not being maybe a little bit faster, a little bit slower, and a little bit everywhere else. So that seems to be what the Japanese are getting for this update, or for future updates. We never know. And then if we move on to Italy are getting some big stompers. So of course today we had a dev blog on the OF40 MTCA. I haven't got to it yet, but it's pretty much just an OF40 Mark II with an upgraded engine. This has a 1000 horsepower engine in the booty, and that just means that it's incredibly fast. It also has access to all of the good things that the OF40 Mark II has. This machine here. It has access to the 105mm Otto Melara, has access to DM23, and also a laser rangefinder, and of course smoke grenades. So the best way to see this is just another rank 6 8.7 premium, which is just a copy of the OF7, but the OF40 Mark II, but it is a better version because it has a better engine. So I don't like the fact that they're selling power. I'll go into it more when I cover the dev blog, but it's just it is a straight upgrade over its standard Tech Tree equivalent, which makes me very sad. Then we actually have another Ariete. So this may surprise you. But obviously, with the Ariete before, we had the C1 Ariete Pre-Series. Now this was technically a prototype Ariete, and now we're getting the full-blown Honka Stonka. This is the Italian MBT of the mid-1990s. It is at 9.7 right now. There is no way this stays at 9.7. This goes up to 10.0 without any questions asked. It has 3 7.62 Berettas on it, and also the 120mm from Otto Breda. And then, of course, the 4-man crew, the first stage ammo stowage down here, and then of course all of the ammo in the front, along with the transmission and the engine in the back. 1300 horsepower, very powerful engine for this 53-ton vehicle. And let's just check, is the armor fully modeled on this thing? Let's just have a look. It's getting there. It probably is actually much more modeled than the Leclerc right now. Yeah, 370, 700 in areas. So this might actually be fully modeled when it comes to its armor. But just understand, I might be wrong about that. Of course, the reload rate being 7.5 seconds with the crew that I have. So at maximum, we can have a look. It will be 6 seconds, which is very nice. So the Italians are going to have 2 top-tier MBTs that are incredibly good, plus the premium, plus a bunch of really good aircraft. There's a lot of good stuff going for them. It also has the DM33, which is, I believe, the 3rd best round in the game right now, because the newest best round in the game is coming from the mid-1990s Leclerc. Yes, this is a tank that a lot of people have been looking forward to, and for good reason. It is a very it's a very beautiful tank. It looks incredibly futuristic, and it also has access to the 120 GIAT CN12026F1, which fires the Heat FS, which seems to be standard for all of these vehicles, and an OFL 120 F1 round, which has 528, 457, 305 across the board. This is the de facto best APF SDS round in the game, once again, along with the fact that this has an autoloader, meaning that it has also the best reload at top tier, along with other vehicles which have maxed crew and also the Type 90. So this is just looking absolutely wonderful from that point of view. You know, it still has the 3-man crew because obviously it has the autoloader, commander, gunner, and driver. Then it also is about 54 tons with nearly a 1500 horsepower engine. It should have blowout panels in the back. We'll make sure to test that for you when it comes round to it. It has the fuel tank to try and stop the APF SDS coming at you and annihilating the ammunition. But yeah, my bet is this is, as long as they model the armor to be somewhat similar, at least to some of the other vehicles at this BR, the Leclerc should pretty much take over. You know, it has the max speed, it has the curves, it has the reload, it has the gun depression. The only thing it doesn't have is a top-mounted machine gun, which for me personally I do like, just to try and deal with either smaller targets or lighter targets or aircraft. Instead, all it has is a coaxial 12.7mm. It does have a really cool smoke array though, which I'll show in this little demonstration for you here, because it actually is able to throw smoke all around us. So, where is my smoke? Where are you? It just decided not to pop. Well, that kind of sucks. Let's try that. Let's try that again, Leclerc. Are you interested this time? Let's just make sure that it's all in. Hello? Okay. And test drive. Let's see. Nope, we want current. There we go. That was probably the issue that it was running into. The fact that for some reason that had been changed by default. But yeah, here we go. So if you hit G, you can see it fires them forwards, and then it fires them backwards as well, creating a complete 360 coverage of this amazing vehicle. Now that to me is so cool. It is absolutely immense that this machine does that, and I'm just so happy that we finally have a machine that actually, you know, is able to cover you 360 instead of just in front of you. So let's just make sure to pop a shot in there. You know, the standard T64B, you can see it does have dual drive. Takes a little bit of time to get going, so it's much easier to do this. It is incredibly low to the ground because of the fact that it has that autoloader. It can get rid of the space, but it feels nice. It feels absolutely stunning to drive. The only thing that's going to give you the way is obviously that optic on the top, but I wouldn't worry too much because obviously that gives you the ability to be able to see stuff. So yeah, the Leclerc is coming into the game. It's going to be very fun for a lot of French tankers, and alongside the Leclerc, the Roland is also coming. Now once again, this is the Roland missile, which is mounted on top of the AMX 30 chassis, and what you can see here is it in action. So it has access to 2 Roland AAMs on each of the sides. Its radar, you know, works just like everyone else's, and it has the missiles sat here. Look how they've modeled these Rolands, by the way. Absolutely beautiful. This thing, I couldn't actually get it to reload properly. You know, the mechanism wasn't there. Instead, it just kind of did it by itself. So, you know, we'll leave that up to whatever it wants to do. It does have a 3-man crew, and it should be able to be hull broken. It only has 30mm on the front, so that technically holds the hull break, but this area is 15, this area is 15, and of course the booty, only 4 and 15. So yeah, this thing should be absolutely annihilated when it comes to any ground forces, because these Rolands are pretty cool. You know, they're great against aircraft, and you also get 2 of them. You get the Roland 1, which you start with, and the Roland 3, which is a Tier 2 modification, and this just is more, slightly more penetration than it, and it also has slightly higher velocity. So this is going to be better against aircraft. Is it 1300 Silver Lions better? Well, that will have to be up to you. This also has a rangefinder, just in case you want to make sure to know how far away the tank is when you are when it is deciding to annihilate you. But yeah, this is a really cool machine, and it's not a surprise that it's coming to France. Of course, the AMX-30 Super. This is the rank 6 battle rating 8.7 French machine. As we talked about before, every nation now pretty much has an 8.7 premium, so why not give one to France, especially now that the Leclerc is out. It's got good turret rotation, good gun depression. The only real difference between this and the one that you have in the tech tree is the color, and also the upgraded engine. It has access to the OFL 105F1, really good APF SDS round. This is just adding to a laundry list of really good 8.7 premiums, and also I suppose the bigger difference instead of just the engine is the stabilizer. This has a 2-plane stabilizer. It is the first AMX-30 in game that has a stabilizer, thank God, because of the fact that it was getting kind of old with the fact that there was no stabilizer on the AMX-30. I understand that they didn't make the conventional stabilizer for it, but it is nice to see that we do have one in-game that does have it. It also doesn't get access to the 20mm coaxial from other AMX-20 versions, but that should be okay. I would rather drop the 20 for the stabilizer any day of the week. It also has access to 16 grenade launchers on the top of it, so that is something to watch out for, and a little bit of girth on the back, which may give you extra armor protection, trying to keep your keep your first stage ammo stowage safe. So yeah, those are all of the new ground vehicles that are coming to the game in update 1.89, or at least so far, as I've said before. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank B. Young, Blackie, Daniel Stanton, John Ryman, Martinez, Matity, Moxie, Nito, Nick Graham, Alobralo, Sebastian Corona, Super Cacti, and Elove Goats and Seductive Trashcan for supporting the channel.